Happy Sabbath. So, true charity. Who loves the ocean? Yeah, a few, especially now with the nice weather, it's getting better. Maybe not so much in Melbourne, but I know Queensland, they have nicer weather, so it's nice up there. But what's special about the ocean? The fish, yeah? Who loves fish? Yeah, the little ones, of course. Just bear with me; it will all make sense. So, what is this strange-looking fella? Does anyone know? A pufferfish, correct. So, a pufferfish. An important fact to know about the pufferfish is that if consumed, they are deadly. They are the most poisonous fish in the sea, with a toxin inside that is 1,000 times more deadly than cyanide, making it one of the most toxic substances found in nature. Not being content with extreme deadliness, when under threat, pufferfish demonstrate the unique defense, rapidly inflating themselves with water to appear significantly larger than their usual size. They do this by swiftly ingesting water into their expandable stomachs, transforming into a spiky ball that can be 3 to 4 times larger than their normal size. Something a bit like that. Another interesting fact about the pufferfish is that their ability to close their eyes without eyelids, an adaptation not found in other bony fish. They do this by retracting their eyeballs deep into their sockets, reaching depths up to 70% of their eye's diameter. They then seal the surrounding skin to protect their eyes. So why the pufferfish? Why do I bring this up? Well, when we think of the pufferfish, how can we relate this to us? Well, the puffed up nature of the pufferfish here symbolizes pride and selfishness. What do you usually do when you're puffed up or angry? Are we kind? Do we treat people well, or do we have a negative effect on them when we're puffed up? So, do you have any charity? Are you a charitable person? Let's start from the beginning. What is charity? Well, if we look in Acts of the Apostles, we find that charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vulnereth not itself, is not puffed up. The purest joy springs from the deepest humiliation. The strongest and noblest characters are built on the foundation of patience, love, and submission to God's will. So here we have the perfect definition. Here we see all the different aspects of charity. True charity is patient, it's enduring hardships or offenses without resentment, and it responds with kindness even in difficult situations. It is long-suffering. It is kind. When we have charity, we don't envy other people or their possessions. Charity is built on the foundation of patience, love, and submission to God's will. It doesn't say that charity is love. This is very important to note, as we'll touch on it later. However, we see that we speak about submission, which I find equals to sacrifice. It's us giving up our own will or our own plans to do God's will. In charity, we let go of our ego and self-centered desires, allowing God's love to shine through us. If we continue reading, it says, "Charity does not behave itself unseemingly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Christ-like love places the most favorable construction on the motives and actions of others. It does not needlessly expose their faults. It does not listen eagerly to unfavorable reports, but seeks rather to bring the mind to the good quality of others." So we see here that charity is not rude. It is not inappropriate. It does not seek its own desires. It doesn't get puffed up easily, hence the fish. It thinks no evil. Charity places upon a person a Christ-like love, so that we view other people or other brethren around us in the best possible way. They will not expose each other's faults. We will not listen to remarks made by other people in a negative sense. So in other words, gossip. Gossip is a major sin, especially throughout society as well. It can really either uplift someone or tear them down. So if charity was to dwell in our hearts and mind, we wouldn't listen to the gossip that we hear, but instead we'll bring our mind to only think good and positive things about others and focus on their qualities instead of all the negative things we've heard. So here we touch on the point of what is the difference between charity and love? Is charity and love the same? Absolutely not. There are many different translations and many different versions of the Bible where they've taken the word charity out completely and changed it with love. Again, love and charity are not the same thing, and we will see why. So let's go to the actual definition of charity. What is charity? So charity, if you look in Webster's dictionary, it says that charity in a general sense is love, benevolence, goodwill, the disposition of heart which inclines men to think favorably of their fellow men and to do them good. In a theological sense, it includes supreme love to God and universal goodwill to men. So again, the definition brings the role of character, having a charitable character. It is love, but it's also kindness, it's goodwilling towards all men, and it's put all under the one title of charity. It makes the mind think only good and positive things of our brothers and sisters. It's meant to serve. We are here to serve other people. We sacrifice ourselves for the good of others. Now, let's have a look at what it says about love. Love, an affection of the mind, excites by beauty and worth of any kindness, or by the qualities of an action which communicate pleasure, sensual, or intellectual. It is the opposite to hatred. So, you can fall in and out of love with someone or something. Love is easily swayed because it's based on an emotion. It moves like the wind. Charity, however, is unchanging. Charity is a characteristic, while love is just an emotion. While yes, there are similarities, we can't put kindness, good service, patience, or any other of those characteristics under love. Because if you don't love someone, you won't be showing them kindness. You won't be showing them patience. You won't be there for them when they need you. So therefore we can see that charity is more of it builds our character. Love is the way we feel towards someone or something. Now, we've touched on a little bit on this, but charity, you would say, equals also self-sacrifice, doing good to others, being there for other people. So when I think of charity, I think of sacrifice. Now, in the Bible, what was the greatest sacrifice ever given to mankind? It was Jesus dying, exactly. Jesus dying on the cross, giving his life for us. So when I think of charity, I think of Jesus, and he is the perfect example. He had every reason to leave mankind in their sinful ways. However, he came and showed us kindness, love, sacrifice, and service. And all the qualities we've mentioned about charity, they all point back to Jesus. It started with him, and now it all goes back to him. When we think about Jesus, we don't hear him speaking negatively about us as people. We never envision him in a negative point of view. However, even in the movies, they portray him as a gentle, kind soul. He literally would, as he said, he went and spoke to every sort of person, from the highest of the highs to the lowest of the lows. So, how was Jesus charitable? Let me ask you this question. Was he charitable, as we saw before? Yes, he was. But how did he live a charitable life? Did he dwell on the faults of others and talk negatively about their characters? Absolutely not. Did he ever look down upon someone because they were weaker in the faith than others? Absolutely not. Did he treat other people differently because they had a different view to him? Again, no. We find in 1 Peter 2:21 it says, even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example, that ye should follow in his footsteps. What is the example Jesus is asking us to follow? He set the bar that we can reach. He has shown us what it means to have true charity. We are to go out of our comfort zone and do something for others. So, if we put this in our day and age, if we think about this, the best example I could think of as a church, what we do as missionary work, is the homeless. You know, when my mum first came home and she's like, I'm going to do this for the homeless. I'm going to try and get the church and we're going to go feed the homeless because I see a huge need. I didn't know what to expect. But if anybody knows my mum, once she puts her mind to it, you ain't changing it, no matter how hard you try. Hence why I don't have my motorbike license yet. However, when I first went there to the homeless, I was a bit scared. I was a bit nervous. A lot of the people there, you know, it is quite intimidating. But after being there for a while, you know, they're actually just like us. They just want someone to talk to. They will literally give you every little thing that they have. They won't hold back. So, what is the result of true charity? Well, I'll break this quote down as well and keep going back and forth to the homeless. Ellen White says it really well here in the book, A Call to Stand Apart, of what real charity is. So what is it? Real charity helps men to help themselves. If one comes to our door and asks for food, we shall not turn him away hungry. His poverty may be the result of misfortune, but true benevolence, beneficial means more than just mere gifts. It means a genuine interest in the welfare of others. We should seek to understand the needs of the poor and distressed and to give them the help that will benefit them the most. To give thought and time and personal effort costs far more than merely to give money, but it is the truest charity. So if we go to the first bolded bit right at the top, it says real charity helps men help themselves. You think about it, you're like, how does that work? And I never really understood this, but going back to the homeless, after you'd go and help out, if you've ever been, when you come home, you feel so rewarded. You feel like you've actually done something useful in that time. A lot of times on my Sunday afternoon, before I was married, I'd either play computer games or I'd be working. I wouldn't really I'd feel like I've wasted a bit of my time. But after the homeless, you know, you really do feel accomplished. It really did make me start the week positively. Then if we go to the second bold bit, it means a genuine interest in the welfare of others. You know, when we went to the homeless, when you spent a bit of time with them and you really asked them of what's going on in their life, a lot of them have come from broken families. A lot of them were on the streets because their parents, they were either in an accident or their parents didn't want anything to do with them. Some were also from poor life decisions, but most of them as some would say, they were handed a bad card. And now if we go to the last bit, here, it says, to give thought and time and personal effort costs far more than merely to give money, but is the truest charity. When you would go and talk to them, all they really wanted was a friend. They wanted someone to listen to them. They wanted someone to hear their story. A lot of the times, you'll talk to them, and yes, you would ask them a lot, but they would also want to know a lot about you. A lot of them weren't even there for the food or for the help or the clothes that we were given. A lot of them just literally wanted to come and just talk to us. And a lot of the time, that's all they really needed. And so, yeah, I feel like this really does point to the bottom bit as well, that it's the truest charity. When you take time out of your day to hear someone else's story and to help them out. So, do you think you are a charitable person? I really want you to think about this question as we study further about charity, which is found in 1 Corinthians. So I would like you all to get your Bibles out and read along with me as we break down 1 Corinthians 13. So here we find in verse 1 and 2, it says, Though I speak with tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mystery and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. So we see here that those that have the greatest faith and the greatest knowledge, well, it says it plainly there. Without charity, you have nothing. You might have all the knowledge, but if you don't have it with charity, it's useless. While yes, you might know everything, but the way you bring the point across, is it to ridicule and to tell people off, or is it to uplift or to, build up the person? We've all heard this saying, WWJD. What would Jesus do? But truly, in each moment, would he be pleased with how we're treating our fellow brothers? Would Jesus, as we read, suffer for each and every one of us, really talk in the same manner that we talk about each other? Well, yes, we may have a point with what we're saying, but if we do not address it with charity, it means nothing. Especially to the people on the receiving end of our words. Will they understand our point? Or will we be that noise of a tinkling cymbal? I don't know if you've ever heard of what a tinkling cymbal is, but if you give a child this little triangle and you give them a little metal spoon and they smack it around, it makes a lot of noise. And I can tell you, it doesn't last very long. It's very, very annoying. So are we making that noise to other people? Or are we actually doing it with love and kindness for them to really see that we care for them and we really are telling them these things because we love them? We continue reading in verse 3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. So as we read before, charity is not just giving money to the poor or to whoever needs it. Charity is demanding more than just a lip service, talking about it. It requires our time, our resources, our energy. It's also our intentions. If we do this just to do our good deed for the week, and we do it without love and with murmuring and without charity, it all accounts to zero. It profits us nothing. It literally says it quite bold and clear. You can do all the good, but if you're just doing it for a thank you or pride comes in, it means zero. It's all for nothing. We continue on to 4 and 7. We see again the perfect definition. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity wondereth not itself. It is not puffed up like the fish. It does not behave itself unseemingly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. So again, we see the qualities that is involved with charity. We see it is very similar from what we read earlier from the Acts of the Apostles. This is pure charity. This is the definition of having charity. You have all these qualities in you. Now, from verse 8 to 10, if we keep following along, it says, charity never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. We see here that Paul emphasizes that charity is eternal. Unlike spiritual gifts, which are temporary and will cease, charity is everlasting because it is rooted in the very nature of God. Prophecies and knowledge are spiritual gifts meant to edify, which is build up, and guide the church. However, they are limited and will no longer be necessary when God's plan is fully revealed. This is the second coming it's referring to. Paul acknowledges the part Paul acknowledges the partial and incomplete nature of human understanding. Even the most profound spiritual insights are only a glimpse of God's ultimate truth. If we see in the bottom bit, it states, "But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away." So the perfect, that refers to the completion of God's redemptive work, which will be fulfilled at his second coming. Now we keep following along. It says in verse 11 and 12, "When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known." Here in verse 11 and 12, we see charity can also be translated to maturity, or a form of maturity. What is a child like? They don't understand a lot. However, they do whatever they want. You might try to tell them yes or no. Sometimes, sure, they will listen, but a lot of the time, it'll end up doing whatever they want. Once they have their mind set to something, there is no change in it. Good luck trying to get a child to share their toys when they don't want to, or taking away their movies, or trying to take the laptop when they're watching a movie. It's not going to happen. Here in verse 11 and 12, we see that charity is compared to putting away our childish things. So when we start to mature, we start to realize the results of our uncharitable actions. We start to practice self-sacrifice, and we understand that the world isn't all about us. It is about others. It is about living the example that Christ has left for us. This refers to in the way we treat others, in the way we talk to others, in all aspects. I find in this day and age, there are many people out there that once they have made their mind up about an issue of this world, whether they are right or wrong, they will not let it go. Myself included. Even if we're wrong, we would still argue just because we don't want to be proven wrong. But we don't realize that our actions are very hurtful to others. However, we have to get rid of these childish views and focus on what's important in life. Leaving a Christ-like character. Leaving a Christ-centered life. Now, we go finally to the last verse of 1 Corinthians 13. And verse 13 says, "And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity." So now, in the final verse, we see three major topics that we base our faith and beliefs on. We see hope, we see faith, and charity. However, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't really heard much about charity. I can guarantee you I've heard sermons after sermons about faith and hope, but we don't really hear much about charity. And here we see that the greatest of all of these three is charity. Faith and hope can't operate without charity. Brethren, we have to focus on having these three characteristics to flow in perfect harmony, because without charity, it all means zero. So, charity has a very high importance in our life. Well, it should. Is it enough to have the knowledge of the Bible without charity? Well, if we go to 1 Corinthians 8:1, it says, "Now, as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth." So we see here again, puffed up brings me back to the fish. So if knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth, have we seen people arguing about a political point of view? I mean, look, we just had the elections. We saw the drama that came from that. But let's not even go to such a large scale. Let's keep it within the church. We as brethren, we all have different points of view when it comes to whether it be everyday life or biblical point of views. We argue, sure. We discuss, definitely. And it does say in the verse that we all have knowledge. However, whether our point is right or wrong, we should do it in charity. It says that charity edifieth, which means builds up or uplifts, So does that mean after our arguments we should go and talk to our friends and family badly about the people we've just had a discussion with or the argument with? Absolutely not. It's actually quite the opposite. By the end of our discussion, we should still love the person we spoke to. We should still be there. We should still treat them with kindness. If we do not do it with charity, even if we don't come to the same conclusion, we should still love our brethren and do it out of love, patience, and sacrifice. We shouldn't ever put down our brethren. We shouldn't gossip. Are we like the puffer fish? Are we cute like this? Or do we turn into this? Do we appear harmless, and then when someone says something we don't agree with, we get all puffed up? Or will we continue to stay harmless and build up and edify those around us? Now, I have a question. Do you have any charity? Are you a charitable person? So let's go back to the beginning. Where does true charity start? All parents should strive to make their families patterns of good works, perfect Christian households. But in a preeminent degree, is this the duty of those who minister in sacred things and to whom the people look for instruction and guidance? The ministers of Christ are to be examples to the flock. He who fails to direct his own household is not qualified to guide the church of God. Here, if we read in Christian leadership, we see two major starting points for charity. In these verses, we see two highly regarded institutions made by God, the family and the church. Parents, if you do not show charity in your household, what example are you setting to your children? The home is the first school for the child, and what example you teach them, the child will remain in the same footsteps. Secondly, the ministers. If they don't show charity, then the whole flock won't see. While yes, charity is a characteristic, it is also an example. The kind of charity we show to others will be the kind of relationship we have in life with those people. If we show true and perfect charity, we'll have a positive relationship with someone. However, if we go the other way, it's very, very dark, and we'll lose all friendship or whatever relationship we've had with them. And what does it say in the last part? It says, he who fails to direct his own household is not qualified to guide the church. So if we do not have charity in our households, we are not qualified to guide or to even lead a flock. There will come a time when we have to answer for how charitable we are here on earth. When? Judgment Day. Plain and simple. If we go to Revelation 2:19, it says, I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. So at the end of the day, God is watching. God knows all. And someday you will be judged. And you will be held accountable as to why you weren't very charitable. And God will say, hey, I've told you this. Why weren't you it? So how important is charity for us? You might be thinking, well, what charity? You might be thinking, well, what is charity? What is the point of charity? We've seen in 1 Corinthians how important it is, but do we practice it? Is it one of our most positive characteristics? Is it that important? We see here both Peter and Paul, two very well-known people in the Bible. They say very, very similar things. Peter says, and above all things have fervent charity amongst yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sin. And Paul says, and above all these things put on charity, which is the bond of perfection. So, we have these two big, bold statements. Above all things. So, other than Christ, comes charity, because it all starts with Christ. So it doesn't matter about this earth, doesn't matter about our issues, doesn't matter about what's going on. Above everything, charity is the most important. It is above all of it. And it all points back to Christ. Apart from his sacrifice, which is the most important thing, charity comes next. We can be a professed Christian, but be far from Christ if we aren't living a charitable life. So when we think of charity, who's the best example to lean on? The Good Samaritan. He showed kindness when he didn't need to. He went off his journey and showed patience when it wasn't necessary. He could have just walked past like the other two. Not only that, he showed love to someone that normally wouldn't even look twice at him. So we should really base our life decisions and our life choices on the Good Samaritan, because he had charity as a characteristic. So I ask you, do you have any charity? Are you a charitable person? Do we carry these characteristics? I hope so. Thank you, brethren.